Status.
Bodyguard.
Commander.
Recall.
Mission.
Mission. Who's on a war?
Every tyrant tells his subjects that if they will just give up their freedom in favor of authoritarian power, then he can protect them from all the dangers and uncertainties of life, including economic troubles, crime, and especially foreign enemies. One tyrant after another has inflicted drastic injustice and hardship on his own people in the name of protecting them against some evil outside threat, whether that threat was genuine or exaggerated or simply made up. The blind nationalism and tolerance of domestic surveillance and oppression, which comes from being at war, has enabled many tyrants to get away with extreme brutality. The latest excuse for perpetual war is to spread democracy around the world. But regardless of the exact excuse, once the fear-mongering and war propaganda is in full gear, most dare not resist with words or actions, for fear of being perceived as traitors or cowards, or even worse, sympathizers with the enemy. As the head of the Nazi Gestapo put it, quote, "Naturally, the common people don't want war, but after all, it is the leaders of the country who determine policy, and it is always a simple matter to drag the people along, whether it is a democracy or a fascist dictatorship or a parliament or a communist dictatorship. All you have to do is to tell them they are being attacked and denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism and exposing the country to danger." This tactic has been effective for many centuries, exploiting the natural pack mentality of human beings. The us versus them mentality has always been an effective tool for tyrants in duping the people into showing blind loyalty to their political masters and tolerating all manner of injustice and oppression from their own government. And rather than waiting around to be attacked, tyrants will instigate violent conflicts while playing the part of the innocent victim in order to use foreign war as an excuse for domestic tyranny. Even Plato described this tactic 2,000 years ago. The founders of the United States were also well aware that war is often used as an excuse for oppression. Often, tyrants have used propaganda and false flag operations to start a war as an excuse to claim more power for themselves. It is highly likely, for example, that the Nazis themselves burned down the Reichstag, their own parliament building, in order to blame their enemies as an excuse to curtail civil rights and institute martial law. They also carried out Operation Himmler, in which Nazi agents staged elaborate events to appear as attacks on Germany by Poland, immediately after which Hitler invaded Poland, claiming it was an act of defense, saying he would fight, quote, until the safety of the Reich and its rights are secured. Every warmonger knows that to win public support, he must play the part of reluctant fighter, who goes to war only when absolutely necessary in order to defend truth and justice from foreign evildoers. Such rhetoric works simply because people never want to imagine that their own leaders are malicious warmongers who would intentionally cause unnecessary suffering and death, and this leaves the people very receptive to the propaganda fed to them by their own governments. Recently declassified documents show that under the presidency of John F. Kennedy, the entire Joint Chiefs of Staff approved a series of covert military actions, collectively known as Operation Northwoods, whereby the U.S. government would stage fake terrorist actions, including on U.S. soil, and blame Fidel Castro for the events, in order to win public support for a military invasion of Cuba. The documents went into detail describing plans to attack U.S. military ships, stage mock hijackings or the shooting down of civilian airliners, and so on. While this particular operation was not carried out, the documents give a clear view of the deceptive warmongering mentality of some of the highest officials in the United States military and government, who plan to commit false flag terrorist actions in order to deceive the American public into demanding war. While the documents clearly proving this are publicly available, few Americans know about it, and the mainstream American media has given the matter only brief mention, allowing most Americans to comfortably but mistakenly assume that their government would never engage in the types of deception, propaganda, emotional manipulation, false flag terrorism, and warmongering that so many other regimes have been known to engage in. So how are people to tell the difference between honest leaders fighting against real threats and would-be tyrants using deception and public fear to empower themselves and enslave the people? The answer is quite simple. If those in power seek to preserve the fundamental principles of liberty, they can probably be trusted. But if their solution is to sacrifice and violate those principles, then they are tyrants, no matter what excuses or rationalizations they try to hide behind.